Everyone, and welcome to another CPC strategy hosted webinar. Today, co-hosted with our friends over at Ambassador. We have Jeff joining us, as you can see as well. Today's topic is a fireside chat, why e-commerce marketers need to leverage relationship marketing. And this is actually a really interesting topic, and I'm really excited to hear Jeff speak on this because we've gotten a lot of questions, especially throughout the past few webinars, about relationship marketing, referral marketing, influencer marketing, everything that kind of falls under the umbrella of relationship marketing. So really excited to get those questions answered for you today. And again, make sure that you're getting the most out of your time here. Did want to just go over today's logistics before we go any further. Just some questions that we do receive a lot. Want to make sure that we hash everything out here so that you have everything at your disposal and know everything that's going on. For the session recordings and the slides, they will be sent out to you typically within 48 hours following the webinar, and that'll be sent to you to the same email that you registered. So be sure to check your inbox. Sometimes it can slip into your spam inbox, so just please be wary of that. Secondly, just be sure to join in on the poll questions. We have a poll question launching in a few minutes here. It'll really help us better understand how to tailor this content to better fit your needs, and also just to talk about topics that you find interesting. So we'll launch the poll question in a little bit here, and you'll kind of see what we mean, but really also just helps us gauge the interaction of the audience, and again, just makes us really make the presentation for you. On the other side of the coin, if you do have any other questions that maybe we didn't answer, or something was unclear, or we skipped over something that you really want answered, be sure to submit it to the question chat box functionality to the right. It really helps us funnel in those questions to make sure that, again, you are getting the most out of your time here, and that the questions that you're answering and that this presentation is really tailored to your needs and what you're looking to get out of this presentation. So feel free to use those resources to you. And last but not least, we have a handout section on the right side as well. Just different resources that we have available for you to be able to look at your leisure. Again, just to make sure that anything that you have answered or any questions that you may have, the case studies that you might want to read up on that we'll be talking about in the future here, it just helps you really get the most out of all the resources that we have available to you for this hour that you're spending with us. As for me, I'm Anson Hahn, the digital marketing analyst over here at CPC, and I will be kind of moderating as well as asking the questions to Jeff here today. I did want to let you know a little bit about CPC Strategy, who we are. We were founded in 2007, and we are a Google Premier partner. We have over 400 plus active retail clients who we have delivered lasting results for. The Sears, the Pradas, the Nescafes. I really just wanted to showcase our portfolio of clients to show that we have delivered lasting results for different industries and verticals, and that's something that we're really proud of today. Different solutions that we do offer, we have the Google Shopping Management, the Paid Search Management, we have Amazon Sales Acceleration and Content Optimization, as well as Facebook Ad Management, just a few of the different services that we provide here at CPC Strategy. Without further ado, did want to turn it over to Jeff to tell us a little bit about Ambassador and what Ambassador is and they do. So Jeff, why don't you go ahead and tell us?
Awesome. Thanks again for having me. I really appreciate it. So Ambassador is an enterprise-grade modern SaaS platform, and we provide an end-to-end relationship marketing suite. What we mean by relationship marketing is the ability for businesses to leverage the power of their relationships to drive new leads and customers via word of mouth. I'll talk a little bit about what that means, but we power over 300 companies across a multitude of industries to really track, automate, and scale those programs. And we do this by delivering a super easy and powerful to use solution. So that's a little bit about Ambassador. We've been around for about 7 or 8 years now, and we have 40 people, and we're located in the Midwest in Detroit. So as you think about the 5 types of solutions that we offer, they are affiliate marketing, partner marketing, influencer marketing, referral marketing, and advocacy marketing, or brand advocacy. And all of those, they're all related. As we say, we call it relationship marketing under one umbrella. They all have their individual nuances, and companies view them, as we found in the marketplace, in different ways and use different strategies. So we're going to spend some time later on in this presentation talking about the unique characteristics of each one of those, and we're also going to find out which ones, we're going to ask you guys which ones are most important to find out which ones we can spend a little bit more time on as we go through the presentation in general.
Yeah, definitely, Jeff. And that's a very good segue actually into launching the poll question right now. So really interested to see what subtopic are you really most interested in learning about today? Is it the affiliate marketing, influencer marketing, referral marketing, or partner marketing? Again, there's brand advocacy as well, if that's something that you're interested in. Really just interested to see where the numbers kind of tend to lean towards. Jeff, do you have any idea of what might kind of edge out the others in this case?
So if I had to guess, I would guess influencer marketing. It's probably it's the hottest, I guess, area of these kind of subtopics as we're calling them. I think influencer marketing is obviously taking the market by storm a little bit. We're seeing a lot of e-commerce companies specifically, and I know we're tailored to e-commerce. Lots of e-commerce companies leveraging influencer marketing to drive lots of traffic, conversions, awareness, all the things that matter for your business.
Yeah, definitely. And about to close the poll out here in about a few seconds, getting the last results in. And Jeff, I don't think you can actually see these results, but as you can see, 49% of people are actually saying influencer marketing, and 26 are saying referral marketing, 15 affiliate, 9 partner marketing. But yeah, you hit it right on the head. And I think that, again, goes along with really what we've been seeing in terms of influencer marketing really taking the marketing world by storm. And that's something that a lot of people are really interested in terms of how do we build a strategy around influencer marketing. So definitely thank you everyone for participating in the poll. And again, that is going to shape kind of our questions as we tend to ask them throughout the webinar as well. So again, feel free to use that question box functionality. That's where you can funnel in all your questions for us to answer live throughout the webinar as well. Now, I did want to introduce Jeff, our speaker today, founder and CEO of Ambassador. Ambassador, again, is a relationship marketing platform that helps B2B businesses and consumer brands drive revenue by leveraging the power of mouth, referrals, affiliates, influencers, and partners, and more as well, of course. Ambassador is also used by companies like HubSpot, HP, Madison Reid, CIBC, and RIA Financial. But really just wanted to give you a little bit of background on our main speaker today, Jeff, who I will turn it over for to talk to us a little bit about the agenda.
Awesome. Absolutely. So thanks again, Anton. I appreciate it. It's great to be here. And I think, again, we have lots of awesome content around influencer marketing specifically, and we'll also touch on the differences between influencer, referral, and affiliate, which are really the three most interesting ones for the audience today. So thinking about the agenda, where we're going to start is the umbrella of relationship marketing. Again, that's what we call it. It's really all of those pretty related topics under one roof. Thinking about why marketers need to master the strategy, and obviously it's becoming more and more important to do so. And if you, as a marketer, you want to be at the top of your game, you want to master these tactics. And then thinking about the best way to manage and execute relationship marketing efforts. And finally, getting some takeaways to build out an efficient relationship marketing campaign. So that's going to be the agenda for today, and we'll figure that and talk through that as we go.
Yeah, definitely. And the majority of this webinar is really just Q&A, me asking questions to Jeff here for us to answer. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them over. But really just wanted to dive right into our first question, which I know we have a few viewers that are probably thinking, what is relationship marketing as a whole?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, and again, relationship marketing is a pretty new term, and what we consider relationship marketing is really everything you do to develop these strong relationships with your customers, right? They're people that you know, and for us, it's this new area, this new category where companies are leveraging the people they know, right? The modern consumer, they have access to all this information, and like, how are these companies going to have them spread the word, share with their friends, their networks, and so forth? So again, we consider relationship marketing these 5 sort of core pillars, and it's, affiliate marketing, influencer marketing, referral marketing, partner marketing, and brand advocacy. So those are really the pillars. Quickly explaining the differences, how we see them is referral marketing tends to be a customer referral or refer a friend. Again, you see those across the web in various places. Influencer, which again is the most, I think, interesting topic. And for influencers, it's really about someone who has a highly engaged audience, leveraging social channels. They could be a celebrity nowadays. They could be internet famous or whatever you want to call it, right? But they potentially can reach millions or tens of millions of people with a specific tweet or post on Instagram or Facebook. For us, an affiliate is somewhat similar to an influencer, but they're typically not as famous, right? They're maybe doing this as a business. They have a blog, someone with an email list, but they're targeting a relevant audience that would work for your brand. And then we'll partner, obviously not as important here, but those are typically resellers or agencies, consultants, more of a B2B space. So we won't focus on partner as we go through this, but the other three are all highly relevant for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And really just want to start right off the bat. Sean has a kind of follow-up question about relationship marketing as a whole. So if you are B2B, would your relationship strategy or would your relationship marketing strategy be targeted at your business customers or at the end users or the consumers of your product?
So I think you can do both. So B2B, and it's something that people don't think that relationship marketing works for B2B, but actually about half of our customers are B2B, and they typically do very, very well. Of course, it's a little bit of a different strategy, right? Like people refer to business and their peers in a business environment a little bit differently, and that's okay. I think so. Part of the strategy is understanding the right audience and communicating to them effectively. It could be the end user, depending on what kind of business it is. If it's more of a B2B to C type of business. But at the end of the day, you want the users of your product and service, the people that you're communicating with, that you have relationships with, to share with their networks because they think you deliver value, right? And that's the end of the day. So in B2B, I think it depends. You can see, I think that the end users certainly matter, but also the business user matters as well. So it just really depends on the specific business case.
Yeah, definitely. And I think kind of just based off that, B2B or B2C regardless, I think a lot of people always kind of question or wonder, what is the ROI for e-commerce brands when it comes to relationship marketing? That's always a question that people need answered, when they're trying to start a new strategy. So Jeff, if you could kind of just let us know what your thoughts are there.
Absolutely, and it's a question that is obviously always asked of us. And so we actually did a study recently for participation and metrics based on our e-commerce customers. And so here are some of the metrics that we found, and you can see the graphic. I'll explain it. But basically what we're showing here is the first number is a 40% number, and it says basically if you have 10,000 ambassadors and 40% of them share, so the number is saying that 40% of them will share their link just once, it actually generates 46,000 visits to your site. So about 4x the number of shares turn into visits. And then we're doing another calculation, assuming that each visit is worth, let's say, $3.62. That equals potentially 166,000 in revenue. Again, these are kind of averages based on customers that we've dealt with, but it goes to show you it's a numbers game, right? It becomes the more ambassadors that you have in the top of the funnel. If you just think about any marketing funnel, that's going to increase the shares, the traffic, the visits, the conversions, and the purchases. Like all of those things are happening just like any other marketing funnel you have. So it is a numbers game. There are ways to optimize and to see better results based on specific high performers, but at the end of the day, it's also like anything else. You really do want to continue to build that funnel. The one thing that I would say here, the most important part, in my opinion, is the left side of this graphic. And when you're thinking about an ROI perspective, the ROI is pretty clear, but the second 12 months. So if you look at the first 6 months or look at this in 6-month chunks, the first 6 months you do well, you do 3 times better in the next 12 months. So looking across the first 18 months of your program, the first 6 months we're still seeing value, but you really 3x that the next year. And it comes down to just being more prepared, optimizing, doing the things, learning and getting feedback from the people that you're working with. Because again, although these are universal, every company and every customer base is going to be a little bit different. So it's going to be that much more about you and your team optimizing for your best ambassadors.
Yeah, definitely. And I know we got a lot of questions coming in. Some referring to the fact that, with the graphic itself, not really, or more so just wondering about, is there something that you can attribute to that growth between year 1 and 2, I guess, or do you have a hunch as to why there might be that 3 times growth in revenue, or really just curious about that there?
So I think it's a couple of things. I mean, one is, and again, the idea of relationship marketing, of influencer and referral, and again, we kind of categorize these all together. It's still new. So people are learning best practices on the fly. They're oftentimes not like always leveraging the best practices when they start. And then there's also just a natural feedback loop of learning from the people that are doing well. So when you see, for example, we have a company that we'll show later, they have a company that that people started doing videos and started making tens of thousands of dollars a month. And so they started telling other people, hey, if you really love our product, make a video, because the people that are doing that are absolutely killing it. So that changes the inflection point and the ROI trajectory, to be honest. And you see those as you have creative people that are in your funnel that are doing exceptionally well. It could be a blogger, it could be an email list, but it could be just a single person doing something really unique. And you know, we could give those examples. And I think another reason is these are our customers, and from our perspective, we have account managers who work with every company. So some of this is just we're helping provide faster, you know, better feedback faster. But it takes time. The first 6 months, you know, most marketers love to experiment. In the first 6 months, you're still learning. You know, I think the learning, the feedback that I would give to people that are trying this out is don't throw in the towel after 6 months if it's not where you want to be. Again, we've seen companies consistently 2 or 3x where they are, and this is roughly with the same investment, right? They're not spending more money; they're really just learning as they go.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, too, it's not something for people looking for a short fix or like a, hey, we need something now. It's something that you'll really reap the benefits for as time goes on, as you continue to kind of make that investment into relationship marketing.
Exactly. And
awesome.
One of the things that we always talk about is we look for customers specifically that are looking to invest, right? It's not about making a short-term trade-off. It's doing things the right way to help scale the company for the long term. And that tends to be investing in the right software, the right products, the right people, to do that, again, indefinitely, not just, you know, if you want to make $10 tomorrow, there's a bunch of ways you can do that pretty effectively. But if you want to make $10 million over the next couple of years, then you have to build a flywheel, and you have to build processes, and you have to do it the right way. So that's kind of how we think about it.
Awesome. Sounds great, Jeff. Appreciate it. And I know kind of another question that a lot of people have are how are e-commerce marketers currently leveraging relationship marketing? And I think that's, you know, as marketers, we're always looking at you know, what are other people doing, or what are some examples. So interested to see some of the other things that you're going to provide to the audience here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great segue, because I talked about these a little bit, and this is one of the examples I was actually mentioning. So as you see this company, Litter Robot here, they have a really cool like a cat litter box that's like a robot, like just like the word, right? Just like it says. But if you, and this might be hard to see, but if you actually read the kind of the second headline, it tells you that ambassadors average $1,500 a month, that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of money, right? In some places, that's, I mean, at least supplemental income that can pay for a car or even a mortgage, right? Their top ambassadors make $7,500 a month, which is basically $90,000 a year. It's a full-time job, essentially. This is one of the companies where they had people that were doing videos, people that did cat videos, right? Like, it wasn't even necessarily about the product, but it's a product that you probably may not have heard of, and they are absolutely killing it. And it's a great company. I mean, the product is great, right? Like, people love it. It saves people time. It saves them, you know, doing things they don't like to do. But it's really this influencer program with a dual-sided structure. Something that we talk about quite a bit from a tactical perspective is what we call like a give-get. So it's what we call dual incentive, two parties win. And why that's so beneficial is one of the common pieces of feedback we get is people don't want to feel like they're taking advantage of their network. And what we say is, then you should offer a dual incentive where you are getting something, but you're also giving somebody a discount, right? It's a great strategy. You're actually giving someone, you're doing a favor by giving them a discount. It works really well, and this is a company that's absolutely crushed it. They've done a great job.
Yeah, that's actually a really great way of putting it. Never really thought of it myself that way, of the give-get strategy. So definitely interesting to see that kind of come into fruition there.
So another company that's doing incredibly well is an e-commerce brand called Mizzin In Maine. If you don't know about them, I'm a huge fan. I wear their shirts all the time. And you can see this is a rewards program. They have a couple different really interesting rewards. They actually tied theirs into SMS and done some really interesting things. So this can be, again, a rewards program, both for being loyal, also for referring friends. It's an up-and-coming emerging brand the product is on the very, on the cutting edge of clothing technology. It's like, super comfortable, like, machine washable dress shirts, right? So it makes sense. Like they check all the boxes from a customer perspective or from a brand perspective of what types of products and services do extremely well. So Mizzin In Maine is another great example, and they've done some really cool things. And again, they also offer a give-get as well. It's not listed on this slide, but they do that, and it works incredibly well. So another company is a company called Madison Reid. They have a referral program. It's as you can see here. This is actually the website, the homepage, and you can see this is like a major part of the site navigation. So it says Give 15. If you can see that up in the top area here, but it just goes to show, like, you want to offer these things to your customers, and you want to offer them to the people that are visiting your site, but you have to make it visible, right? Like, people aren't going to necessarily look for a referral program. It's going to almost have to hit them in the face. And you can see this is a very, it's very tastefully done. It looks great, but it's right in the middle of the page. It's right where your eyes go. And this is a great way for them to drive traffic. It's, again, Madison Reid. They've been a customer of ours for a long time. Now you see them, I think they did ads. They do ads on TV. They're a big brand now. And this is how they kind of got that groundswell of support and really leveraging the voice of their customers for people that love their products and services.
Yeah, that's great to see, and it's really helpful to see kind of the 3 different examples that you gave, and kind of how those strategies are really showcased throughout each of their business strategies as well. I guess one question that we do have here from I believe it's Josh, and he's really wondering. Of course, there's going to be a lot of different strategies that you see just throughout. For many different businesses, but really interested to hear if there's one in particular that either stuck out to you, just thought it was very interestingly done, or maybe stood apart just because it's not your run-of-the-mill relationship marketing advertisement. If there's any example that you have there, don't mean to put you on the spot there though.
Well, I'll tell you one of them which we walked through, and it's the litter robot having someone who made 6 figures with cat videos. Kind of blew our minds. I mean, it really changed. And this was at least a couple years ago. And when we found out about this, and we talked to them, and they happen to be a company that's actually close to us from a location perspective. They're in Metro Detroit, and we know them fairly well. And it was unbelievable to hear the story of this person who put videos up online on YouTube, and then they started generating literally a year's salary worth of commission for selling these litter robots. And it was really an eye opener, and we realized it wasn't about even like the perfect execution. It was just about, if you give people enough guidance and you kind of let them run with it, they can be really successful. And the beauty is your brand benefits from that. So I mean, this is a company where they would have never suggested people necessarily do videos. They may have at some point, but they realize some guy makes 6 figures, which means they're making $500,000 or more maybe. So it's pretty impressive when you think about it. I mean, I don't know how many businesses have channels that consistently produce $500,000, and for them it was, in this case, one or 2 people, let's say, doing videos. So that if you think about how you can scale that across tens of thousands of people or hundreds of thousands of people or a select group of people that are really influential, you have a lot of interesting opportunities ahead of you. And that's, again, the businesses that are becoming the most successful businesses in the space are doing the things that the old stodgy businesses aren't willing to do. And I think this is one of those examples. Yeah,
definitely. And that kind of segues pretty well into our next question that we had, and that's how do you get started with the referral program? We talked about these great examples and all these different things. So if you could walk us kind of through Ambassador's source of truth in terms of identifying a great program or a great a process, or what that would look like, I think that would help a lot of people out.
Sure, and I would say there are like 3 pillars that we kind of talk about that are super important. And again, these are things that are potentially outside of our control. So we think that it's hugely important to have these things, or believe that you have them. You can always make it better. But first is having a product or service or brand that people love, right? it's really hard to force people to do things they don't want to do. You can encourage them, you can incentivize them, but the best companies already have people talking about them. So some people come to us and say, hey, Jeff, we already have lots of word of mouth. We don't need it. That's totally not true. Like, the companies that have word of mouth are the best candidates to 50x their word of mouth, right? And to do a lot of other things. So, referral marketing generates great results, but it starts with you or your company and your product. So that you have to at least be thinking about that and hopefully have really good feedback so far. You also need a captive, engaged audience, right? The relationship with your customers tends to be fairly transactional, right? Like, you don't want that to be the case. You want to have a social following. Do you talk to people on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram? Are you doing those things to engage people? Because you're going to ask them to do things. You're asking them to refer. Even if they opt in, you're asking them to do it. If you've never asked them for anything before, you've never talked to them other than a transactional email, you may not get the results that you expect, right? Or that you want. So, begin engaging and talking to this audience, even if it's just posting photos or pictures or tweets. Like, those things matter. So start doing those first, and then you'll continue to see the benefits as you build relationships and credibility and trust. And they know that if you ask them to do something, that'll be beneficial both for you and for them. And the third thing is, like, eventually, building a process around this stuff, right? That's what we do. We're software that you wrap around this technology, right? It's for the tracking, the management, and really what we call, like, scaling these programs. So a lot of companies come to us and they say, we're doing this in Google Docs, or we're doing this in Excel. We've got a couple people. It's pretty manual. It's pretty tedious. That's a good way to start. Like, a lot of our customers are doing that first. Make sure it works. But at a certain point, you realize, hey, we need to do this in a better, more systematic way. And that's where we think, hey, you should use a software program. And if it's not us, there's other companies out there. We feel really good about what we do. We work with a lot of great brands, but you should be doing something at some point if you really want to scale it. A couple other quick things. Some of the other strategies about referral marketing are the ones that you see on the screen, right? Like, identify, enroll, track, and reward. So again, identifying who, we say in our sales demos, the who, what, and how. You need to understand who you're looking for, whether it's an influencer, then you're going to have to find them externally potentially, right? If it's a customer who, then you know where those customers are. They're in your CRM or some other database. Then you're going to have to ask them, right? You're going to enroll them into these programs, find out what that requires, what do you need to ask of them, figure out who in fact raises their hand and says, I'm willing to participate. Then ultimately you need to track. You need to track the success. You want to close the loop, see who in fact they're referring, what channels. Are they referring via email? Are they posting on YouTube? I mean, those are two very different things, and you may see very different results. So you want to track where they're coming from. If you know YouTube works, maybe your marketing department can then start also doing YouTube ads, things like that, right? Like, you want to leverage that knowledge across the business. And then finally is the reward structure, right? Like, determining what people are going to get, whether it's a give-get, or if it's an influencer, you may have to pay them for posting. Those are the things you're going to have to figure out. Again, from a business perspective, what makes sense, but the rewarding is also a really important part of the process. And again, if that makes the people feel good about sharing and encourages them to do it, they'll even be more likely to do that in the future as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you might have actually answered Steve's question there, but Steve was wondering, so when we're talking about B2C referrals, right, is there one that you've kind of seen in terms of a strategy that typically works well for most companies? Is it entries into a draw or a lottery system? Is it a fixed reward like a $10 voucher? Or is it really, like you said, might just depend a lot of the time?
So it certainly depends, and I would say, depending on the company, it varies. But generally speaking, customer referrals work well, right? Like, again, there are exceptions, of course, but people like to promote and talk about the products and services that they use. We encourage companies, especially e-commerce companies, to do what we call like a post-checkout, sharing experience. And because when you buy something, like, that's like the peak excitement, right? Like, the second maybe best part is when you're opening it, right? Like, unboxing it. Those are two really great ways to both get a lot of viewings, right? Like, you could do a video of yourself unboxing a really cool pair of shoes, post that online, or unboxing your litter robot, right? You post that on YouTube, and then you see who clicks on it. They're going to learn about it. They're going to see how excited you are. And then if they click on it and buy one, then boom, you're part of your customer referral, right? So those tend to do really well. Again, certain products work better than others, like healthcare, fashion, the ones that you brag about buying, those are always great. And typically they're highly competitive, really interesting products. Obviously electronics, new technology, things that are, again, you're excited to share with your networks. Those are always going to be great for customer referrals. I think affiliates and influencers could be for products that are maybe a little bit harder to get traction with for whatever reason. But again, you're looking for people in both of those cases, affiliate and influencer, that have very relevant networks. So if it's a healthcare product, you want to find people that are blogging about healthcare. You want to find fitness influencers that have a great following, or chefs or what have you. So those strategies and tactics tend to work really well because you're super targeted to the people that will find your product and service amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Steve, hopefully he answered your question there for you. Did have a follow-up question or a question just related to, again, the base question about how do I get started with the referral program? I think Lori was wondering, I guess, what is the most common mistake that you see when people are initially trying to invest into a referral program, or they're trying to build out that process or structure? Is there like one mistake that you see probably most commonly that you're like, oh, if only people didn't do this, they would have a lot more success in their campaigns?
Yes. So the biggest, and it's the biggest pet peeve for us, I know, but it's over engineering, right? Like in the beginning, you don't know what's going to happen, so you don't need to plan like the 50 steps and the what if scenarios. Like just start with a segment of your customers who are excited, right? If you do like an NPS survey, for example, which is Net Promoter Score, and literally the question for NPS is, are you willing on a scale of 1 to 10 to share with your friends? Find the people that say 10 and then say, great, we'd love if you share this URL and see what happens. It doesn't have to be a super complex beginning. I think a lot of companies, they think they're going to do it and they over-engineer it to the point where you're wasting so much time. And again, in a lot of ways, and what I found from a business perspective is you tend to learn as you go, no matter what you're doing. So if you spend 6 months planning, it's 6 months that you're not going to know, and you're not going to learn from what you did wrong. But if you start in a week, and then you have 5.5 months, and change to learn as you go and kind of optimize and get there. So I would highly encourage people, even if you're starting with Excel or Google Doc, I would start trying something, and it could just be, again, generating a code. It's not going to be the best way to track. It's not going to work as well as you hoped, but just get a sense of how easy and how well it could work, and then you can step on the gas. But I think don't do it to where you're planning for millions and millions before you even get your first 10, right? Get a couple transactions under your belt. Know that you have people lined up. Identify the right people before you start mapping out crazy workflows.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that is very interesting that you mentioned that as your biggest pet peeve. Kind of going back to just the graphic that we showed in the beginning of, what might contribute to that exponential growth is just starting, and then really starting with the not necessarily basic strategy, but getting started, and then not overthinking or over-engineering a certain strategy to be something that might not end up being. So I really like that answer there. Again, hopefully that answered your question, Lori, as well. Really, again, excited for this next question. A question that we received a lot, and again, Jeff, in the poll was reflected in that. What's the best way to find influencers if you're willing to adopt an influencer marketing strategy?
Yeah, so influencer marketing and thinking about identifying influencers is hugely important, right? So, and again, there are some tactics, and we'll talk about a couple of them. But it's also about being creative, having a great product, right? Like influencers are also choosing you as well. It's something to also remember. In this day and age in social media, your face, your avatar is tied to this product or service. We think that's fantastic. We think that's great. We think it provides a check on individuals to only vouch for products that they want to be associated with. But that also means that they're going to choose whether they want to be associated with you. And so that's important to understand that. So, making sure that these influencers align and connect with the values of your brand, right? Like, do they speak to your customer base? Do they have a do they operate in a way that's consistent with what you want from a values perspective? That's really important. But in terms of finding these influencers, there's a lot of ways that you can do this. And I think one of the things that we've thought about is, think about the way that you search through social, right? It's like looking at hashtags. It's looking through Google search and looking for bloggers. You kind of have to dig, kind of roll up your sleeves, right? And think about who is the perfect, just like your marketing department does, who is the perfect customer, or what is that, customer, persona. You also want to kind of figure out your influencer persona. What are those people? How many people do they reach? Are they on TV? Are they on, Instagram? Are they on Twitter? And if they are, there's the beauty of social media is you can reach those people now. So, follow the hashtags, follow the categories, use Google search. I mean, some of the stuff is fairly basic, but you'd be surprised how few people are doing this efficiently. And then it comes down to really just asking or pursuing them in different ways. And some of them you'll get lucky with, and some of them you may not. But that's really part of it is again building this relationship, between you and them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, this quote really kind of says it all and sums it up to your last sentence that you just said, is building a relationship with an influencer. And interestingly enough, that's something that we've seen kind of a CPC strategy, just with articles coming in about that is what businesses, and especially bigger businesses, are shifting towards. It's not just like a one-time influencer campaign and then kind of forget that influencer and then move on to the next strategy. But it's really, again, not just building a relationship with the influencer, but with the customer as well. So I thought that was a great point that you mentioned there.
Exactly. And for an example here, again, just even dive in a little bit deeper, you can see that an example, if you're looking for a food blogger right on Instagram, you can search the hashtags. And then what you can also do is see how engaged their following is, right? So you can see if someone posts something, if someone posts an image or a video, how many people are liking it and how quickly, right? Like that doesn't only speak to the follower count, but it speaks to the engagement level. It speaks to how they'll respond. Those are all things that also matter. Volume is great, and companies sometimes always look for the highest volume influencers or affiliates. But engagement I would argue, is even more important. If you ask 5 people and all 5 of them will do what you want them to do, and you only have 5, that's 100% success, right? And again, when you're talking about millions of followers, you only need a tiny fraction of successful people to follow through to do well. But again, thinking about engagement, thinking about what people are going to do if you ask them to do something or suggest they do something or recommend something, it's important. And those dynamics, it's on the spectrum of, reach versus engagement. Sometimes they're not always aligned, but you don't have to necessarily pick one or the other, but it's something you want to think about is where does this person or where does this influencer fall on those vectors, because they both are important.
Yeah, great. Kind of in the same vein as what we're talking about with influencers, we did have a question from Ipek and Craig. Hopefully I didn't butcher that name there. But so when you identify kind of an influencer that you do want to work with, if you're a product-based business, is there some sort of protocol that you would recommend in terms of how to follow up or approach that new influencer? Have you, found something that works best, or is it for Ambassador just like an internal network of influencers that you work with?
Yeah, so for our product specifically, we actually don't have the company. We help companies run their programs, so we don't actually have a network, right? So we're network agnostic, so to speak. I actually, fundamentally don't believe in the idea of networks for a lot of reasons. What I think is companies are much better off if they build the relationships themselves, and then if we push a relationship on you, it's much more artificial, right? So the way that I would personally answer that question is, I would say the best way to get people to be engaged is to honestly build that relationship, right? Like, this takes time. Like, this isn't necessarily a hack. I think what you do is you say, you write an email template, a very short, succinct email that says, hi, so-and-so, we think you're a great fit for our brand. We've been following you online. We think, we would love to figure out a way to work together. And, we offer, a program that you can financially do well, and we can as well. Let's discuss, right? Like you write them an email or, you call them and you figure out a way to continue the relationship. It's going to take time, right? Like anyone who values their own online brand, they're not just going to jump into something. So, I mean, again, you want to think about this as a long-term strategy. And as you start finding these affiliates or influencers that work with your brand, you'll kind of understand what exactly you're looking for. Maybe you can tighten your pitch. You can create a better template, and then you can maybe send out, it's a couple dozen a day versus one a day, right? And I think, again, for me, it's about baby steps, like learn to crawl before you walk, before you run, before you sprint, right? But it takes time, and I think it's not a hack. Like I don't think you can trick people into doing it. Like you want them to feel good about it. You want there to be transparency and openness, but in the end of the day, you want them to help you, your business be successful.
Yeah, great. Definitely. Thanks for answering that. Hopefully that answered your question, guys. Wanted to move on to the next section. Again, another section really talking about influencers and affiliates. And this was a question submitted by actually one of our attendees when we kind of asked that write-in question in the form. And it's really about how can we leverage affiliate and influencers to increase commerce. And so I know that we have some great examples that we're going to get to in a little bit here. Before we get to that, I wanted to kind of let you talk a little bit about that dynamic there.
Yeah, and so I think, first of all, affiliates and influencers will absolutely be able to increase commerce. I think the beauty of these programs specifically from a business perspective is that you can choose what you want to pay for a conversion, right? What that means is in an affiliate marketing, for example, you can say, we will pay $10 every time someone buys a t-shirt from us. And we know that t-shirts are at least $20, right? So anytime someone comes in, we know that we're paying 10, but we're getting at least 10 for ourselves. It's highly efficient. You know what you're getting. Unlike email marketing or AdWords, you don't know how many ads are going to get clicked for you to get a conversion, or you don't know in display ads or TV ads what that's going to make for you specifically. So I fundamentally believe, first and foremost, that these are very highly efficient. And what we've seen across all of our customers is they usually say this is the most efficient or the most effective channel for dollar. So that's pretty consistent. We see that. So how you can leverage them is again by building those relationships, making sure that you're doing it in a way that is scalable for the long term. I also want to make sure that, and I know affiliate and influencer are kind of lumped together here, but they are still different. And I think it's important for you to know that you can use different strategies, and you may only need to use one or the other. In the end of the day, you probably should eventually use both. But depending on where you are in the business cycle, how the size and scope of your business, affiliates tend to be you can probably do a little bit more efficiently. Influencers, again, the idea of an influencer is they tend to be in demand. They have lots of options, right? They could be celebrity or at least famous in a particular niche. It may cost you more money up front. So I think about it from that perspective. But at the end of the day, they're both going to do really good at driving traffic and engagement from a very relevant audience. And that's what you need to do. And so if that doesn't work for your business, there are probably underlying issues in the business, to be honest, because these are really highly effective ways to acquire customers.
Yeah, great. And I know now we'll kind of be going into some of the examples, like you said, from a case study. But yeah, just wanted to kind of let you talk through some of these case studies. And again, I know that the case studies are shared as PDF files in the handout. So if you want a little bit more insight into what Jeff is speaking on or some of the companies he's talking to, they are in the handout section for you to reference.
Yeah, so please check the handouts. Here's an example of an influencer campaign. But you can see on the left, $441,000 in revenue in 3 weeks, almost 12,000 website visits, 1,600 customers, like I said, $441,000 in revenue. In this case, it was a company that was looking to kind of grow and launch. They were relatively new to the market. They happened to find a really popular celebrity to do I think it was one or a couple tweets on their behalf. And the results are pretty amazing, 100% growth week over week. In this case, it was a contest as well, so they mixed in some other marketing initiatives within this influencer campaign. But again, you can see the results. And anecdotally, I can tell you this company has continued to do really well, and both raised a lot of money and I think is growing like a weed. So very significant for them, really cool. If you move over to the right, and this is a network of influencers and affiliates, and you can see this is in a 2-month span, so it's really quick, a really quick time period. And again, as much as we talk about these quick results, again, these are really meant to be longer term. And I can tell you this company is still doing incredibly well, years later or months later anyways. But it's about getting, 800% ROI, 200 new customers. And for a brand that has their average cart value is in the several $100 range, 200 is tens of thousands in revenue. And you can see 300% increase in new revenue. So these are things that are happening. You read through the case studies, you'll see that in the case of Little Robot, which is the one on the right, they were doing this manually, and the fact that they could start automating just increased like rocket fuel, right? Like they knew it was going to work. They already saw the results with, I think in their case it was literally working with like veterinarians and people that would like be really relevant but super manual. And again, leveraging software, leveraging technology, it's going to make your marketing team that much more effective. It's going to make your life easier. Those are things that you can do with platforms.
Yeah, definitely. And it's always great to see examples too of actual companies that have leveraged these different tools and strategies. Just gives you a little bit more confidence in terms of what we're speaking on. So hopefully if you haven't yet accessed those case studies, please do. They will only be available for the webinar. And I think that these were great case studies to share with you in terms of the actual power behind relationship marketing strategy. And last question that we have for today is what is the best way to manage and execute relationship marketing efforts? Obviously, like you said, there are different ways to do it manually, but there's always a more efficient way to do things. And I think this is a question that probably a lot of people are asking themselves in terms of if they are trying to just start initially or scale up their relationship marketing efforts. What is the best way to make sure that all of this information is consolidated, it's efficient, and it's ready to run with it and have those great results that we've seen?
Sure. And again, this is where, as we touched on sort of over this entire presentation, it comes down to once you know what you need to do is really leveraging technology to be that much more efficient, right? Find a vendor that has usability, flexibility, is customizable. And the reason why those are important is because as we showed you, you'll be more successful in year 2 than year 1, and you'll be more successful in year 3 than year 2. So you want to continue to be able to make easy changes, to edit, to optimize. Marketers these days, they want to test everything. You want to get feedback from your best results and your best users and ambassadors. That requires a platform or technology software vendor that's going to be able to do those things with you. So first and foremost, use technology. Secondly, use technology that you can scale with and grow with as a business, right? The one thing that I can tell you, going from 0 people to 40 plus people, is the cost of switching technology, of starting cheap and then trying to move later, is incredibly expensive. And it's something that everyone I feel like goes through. For me, I used to always try to get the thing that was the most inexpensive, and then you realize that the cost of doing that is much greater than the dollar amount, right? Again, one of the reasons why we talk about investing, right? We're at the point where if you're ready to invest long term in a solution, that's where we feel like we fit in the stack. We're on the high end. We offer a very kind of white glove service where we help kind of end to end. And again, I think where you want to figure out from a business perspective is where are you in that life cycle? Are you just learning? Are you starting? Do you have a mature product and a mature audience? Then it's time to maybe go and step on the gas and really build several programs around your marketing department, and it depends on bandwidth and things like that. So the best advice I have is to continue to be organized. So start somewhere. Ideally think about technology, but be organized and figure out what you need. And that way you can go to there's vendors out there. We'd love to talk to you, but if you're not a fit for us, know what you're looking for so that you can have those appropriate conversations and you can find someone that fits for you, whether it's a combination of budget, technology, feature function, things like that.
Yeah, definitely. And that really sums it up. I think we're going to have a little bit of time for Q&A. I know a lot of questions are coming in here. Jeff, do you want to give us a quick recap?
Sure. So today's recap, again, relationship marketing refers to everything your brand does to develop these strong lifelong relationships with your customers to drive more traffic and conversions and sales, right? 82% of Americans say they seek recommendations from friends and family when considering a purchase. So literally 4 out of 5, highly relevant to seek recommendations. And lastly, you can see a 3x ROI for e-commerce brands, for the year after their first 6 months. So again, continue to optimize and scale, and you'll see that success into the future.
Yeah, awesome. And I know that we had an offer here from Ambassador, the definitive guide to referral marketing. Again, that is in the handout section as well. It is available for you to download. Jeff, do you want to speak a little bit to this guide? Give a little background.
Absolutely. So it's a great guide. I mean, we just put this together. It's based on several years of really expertise across several of our, myself and several of our what we call diplomats at Ambassador, who put together this guide based on what we've seen in the market. It really covered all aspects of our company. Right? We got feedback from our success coaches, from our salespeople, from operations, from marketing. So it really is a definitive guide. It's highly relevant. It's definitely worth reading. It was very well written. Super proud of our team, and it's got great graphics as well. So it's really easy to work through and super relevant. Definitely spend some time, download it, pass it around to the folks on your team. But it's super worthwhile as really thinking about referral marketing and remembering that it's pretty closely related to influencer and affiliate as well. I mean, there's a little bit of a difference, but if you do download that, check out some other content on our blog or website too, because we really cover all the different tactics and programs that you might be interested in.
Yeah, awesome. Again, that is available for you to download until the end of the webinar here. And again, that's really it for the content of today's webinar. I really wanted to open it up for Q&A. I know we have a lot of questions, so Jeff, I'm going to give you kind of a rapid fire Q&A here. I know we've answered a lot of great questions throughout the presentation as well, but it's great to see this engagement here. First question that comes to mind, Matthew and RW were wondering, kind of in the same light here, in terms of identifying influencers and really kind of figuring out the revenue portion or the revenue portion of how much it costs for influencers. I think a lot of people are wondering, is there a model that you've seen work better in terms of when paying the influencer, like a revenue sharing model or just upfront payment? Is there something that Ambassador typically recommends or has seen to be more reliant?
So I would start with rev share, and I'll tell you why. So ideally, your own metrics, and I think it's one of the things that I may have not touched on, but knowing your own metrics, knowing your own KPIs is important, right? And it starts with, you need to know your margins from an e-commerce perspective. If you're only making, if something costs you $10 and you're selling it for $12, you don't have a lot of room there to promote or spend on marketing and advertising. So you need to know your margins. A rev share, the reason why I like a rev share to start is that you can control it. Eventually, again, every part of the sales funnel, you'll want to know like your landing page conversion rates and all these other things that you may not be thinking about in day one, but you want to know those before you start making offers for a single post, for example, because when someone posts, if you have a hole in your funnel, so to speak, and people are leaving, leaving out the back door, you're going to potentially waste a lot of money. So I would start with the rev share, but again, the person who you're doing this with is also going to have an expectation on your end. They may ask you, what is your conversion rate? So these are things that, again, you want to be prepared for. And you may want to start small, right? You may want to start with the most popular person in this entire industry. Maybe you start with someone who's a B or C level, and you can work with them, and maybe they'll be a little bit more, they'll be willing to work with you and not be so worried about their take.
Definitely. I appreciate that answer, Jeff. Hopefully that answered your question. I know there's multiple people asking that, so great to shed some light on that. I know that Alyssa had a question. I know you mentioned about a great thing about Ambassador being network agnostic. I think it's the word that you use, or just agnostic of not having an internal network of influencers that you reference or you refer to. Alyssa was wondering, I guess, what doesn't work about networks, or how do you see that as an advantage that you are network agnostic?
So my background way back in the day is affiliate, and affiliate was in the beginning, it was very network heavy. And what I found was that all of the networks pushed affiliates to the top converting companies. So back 10 years ago, everybody went to Netflix because Netflix could offer a lot of money and it was a really awesome product. So you had to be so much better than Netflix as a business to get people's attention. And that's, if you think about it, I mean, how many brands can you name off the top of your head that are better than Netflix, right? Not a lot. So for all of the businesses out there, like if you're competing with the best people and you're competing against Apple and Amazon and Netflix, you're probably going to lose almost every time. So to me, the idea of a network is great. The reality of a network is a lot tougher, in my opinion. So that's why I think the best way to find the best people is to be very, selective, use your own business experience and your own brand and really reach out to people one-on-one or, find a place where those people hang out, right? Like a message board or a group where those people that would be really good influencers for you, where do they work? I think that's going to be much more effective for 99% of businesses in the world. If you're one of the biggest brands, then yeah, you can do a network. Most of those companies also don't want to do a network at that point because there's other reasons that they'd rather have it in-house. There's more control, and there's maybe the economics make more sense than going through a network because you're paying a lot. So I think the biggest downside of a network is the reality of what the expectation for a general business is and what you actually get.
Yeah, definitely. Great answer. I like that. Hopefully that answered your question for you, Alyssa. I think we have time for one last question before we close here. This is a question from Lawrence, and he's wondering, I know we mentioned the get 20, give 20, or the give get strategy, and he was wondering, I guess it's more just a question of, do you think having the reward offered first could potentially yield better results as a strategy? For instance, get 20, give 20, as opposed to the give 20, get 20 that you had kind of mentioned, or the give 15, sorry. That was just a question that he had. Kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that, Jeff.
Yeah, I think it's worth thinking about or testing out. Again, my initial answer would be they'll probably be pretty similar, and I wouldn't worry about it too much. But I think you can try it and see. I mean, the beauty is if it's written on your website somewhere, you can track the number of clicks, right? So you can see it over a period of time what's happening. But generally speaking, I think the dual incentive in general, and I think it's a great point to close on. It's such a great strategy. I would highly recommend it. We highly recommend it with every company we work with, because in the end of the day, again, people are putting their reputation, their name on the line, and it's important that they do something that they feel good about. And so offering an incentive to both parties, it's a win-win, and that's the goal, right? Like you want everyone in the transaction to be happy. You want your business to be happy, the referred party, and the new customer. And if you do that, you're going to help build, a great business.
Yeah, definitely. Great closing thought there, Jeff. I like that. So with that, I know we had a few other questions that we couldn't necessarily get to. We are out of time for today. But it's great to see that audience engagement. And again, great to see that buzz around relationship marketing. As for you, Jeff, wanted to thank you for delivering a great presentation and taking all these questions live. I know that can be pretty daunting for some people. So I wanted to thank you, Jeff, and also wanted to thank the audience members that stuck around until the end here. Really, again, the whole purpose of this webinar is just to make sure that in terms of getting the content that you want, or receiving the presentation that you're looking for, that we tailored it to your expectations. So hopefully we answered your questions, and hopefully the content throughout was very relevant to what you were expecting. So really just, again, wanted to thank all of you for attending. We know that an hour out of your day isn't something that we take lightly. So again, definitely something that we are very thankful for you spending with us. And again, Jeff, thanks again for delivering a great presentation. But with that, on that note, this is CPC Strategy and Ambassador really signing out from this webinar, wishing you a great rest of the day. From sunny San Diego, from me, we are signing out. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Anson. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.